3, 2, 1, go. You're now live on all of the devices. Woo! Oh, and I'm just realizing I got some stuff in the background there. That's fine. It's fine. You can see that. You're allowed. It's fine. Oh, and I need to do one other thing. You're welcome. Let me see here. Instagram. Oh. Okay. Come on, I need my phone to be charging while we're doing this. Excuse me, Facebook. It's always good times for you over on the Facebooks. Whew. There we go. Now we're charging. Okay. I think we're set up now. It's such a professional. You are so welcome. Woohoo! Good morning. Afternoon. Good afternoon. No, it's still morning. It's still morning. Here in my heart, it is morning. Good morning. It's 11 o'clock, right? Yes, it is. It's after 11, but not that far after, so yay! Good times. Oof, how bright is that? How bright is that ring light? So bright. Which, whatever. It is what it is. Okay. Hey! Dr. Shannon Coates there. Please feel free to just call me Shannon. Please. I'm a singer. I'm an educator. I am a pedagogy maximizer, and I develop resources for voice teachers and voice coaches, primarily for independent voice teachers. Those of us who are teaching, who are what I call generalists. So we have a wide range of singers who we are working with a very broad range of goals, levels of coordination, repertoire, things we want to say, etc. And so these are the resources that often are viewed through and or provided through a more academic lens, if you will, or through the lens of a more through the lens of folks who tend to teach well-coordinated singers, or singers who are coming into voice lessons with specific or uniform in some ways kinds of goals around what they want to say and how they want to say it, and the kinds of repertoire they want to use when they say it, and also singers who are in many cases matured voices, so matured instruments. And what I mean by matured instruments is that we're talking about instruments that are and bodies that are settled to a certain extent. To a certain extent, right? So we're talking about working with folks in general. We're talking about working with folks who are in that kind of like 18 to like 24, maybe 35, possibly 45 age range. And that is the kind of pedagogy information, voice pedagogy information. When we get lots of the texts that we have, the vast majority of the texts, especially up until, say, the last decade, those texts and the, courses and all of the sort of information, all of our degrees, all of this pedagogy information for voice teachers has and continues to a certain extent has been and continues to a certain extent to be delivered through the lens of I have worked almost exclusively with singers who are relatively well trained. So they're 18 years old, they're coming into an institution. They are at a specific level of coordination, because otherwise they would not have been able to audition. They would not have passed an audition to get into this institution. So they are at some kind of level of coordination and performance skills that they have acquired. This sort of like, there is at least a base level of performance skills. Also, these, again, up until the last decade, maybe the last 2 decades, the information has been delivered through this lens of Western classical lens, and what the skills and coordinations are that are required to create the sounds for Western classical singing, and for that Western classical, for the things that we need to do in order to create the Western classical tonal outcomes. And that is something that we don't necessarily, that hasn't been made explicit. So then when we have folks like myself who, you know, have worked with in an independent, typical independent studio, where we are, first of all, the training has been through a Western classical lens. Certainly my training was absolutely through a Western classical lens. And then we get it, and also, you know, we have a Western classical degree. I do, my undergraduate degree was in vocal performance in Western classical singing. And so we get into the studio then, where we are now working with, I'm now working with 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds. Or at the other end of the spectrum, I am working with folks who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and above. So we're talking about now folks whose voices are unstable in a different way than changing voice from, say, 6 to 15 or 6 to 16. So now we're into a different demographic. And those are the two kind of extremes that we tend to see, not extremes, but those are the kinds of singers that we tend to work with in independent studios, right? We tend to work with the folks whose instruments are not yet matured. And I mean matured in the sense of like their bodies are still growing and their brains are still growing. Or the instruments that are now changing after having been at a relatively stable point for a couple of decades. So perhaps perhaps the voice has felt stable from say 18 to say 38. And then especially if we have an estrogen/progesterone driven or led hormonal cycle, we start to hit 40 and above, and perimenopause kicks in, and now the hormones are really changing some things, and the instrument, the things that I used to be able to do easily, the things that I knew as stability in my instrument and that I could rely on, are no longer stable. I'm no longer able to rely on those things. And so now I'm seeing some changes there that I do not know how to deal with. And now I've come to a voice teacher, generally an independent voice teacher, in order to start to understand what's happening in my body and to be able to do the things I want to do. So then as an independent voice teacher, I am now teaching or working with young singers whose voices have not changed yet. I am also perhaps working with changing voices, expanding voices, which is the kind of language that we're using these days. I am working with sort of on the other side of expanding voices, so middle and older teens. And then, I'm so glad. I'm so glad, Julia. Great. Call me Shannon, by the way. So then I'm working with, so I've got those folks, and like I said, I've also then perhaps on the other end of that spectrum, I have folks in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and above who are now working with, as I said, instruments that are perhaps changing in another way. After a period of relative stability, right? So after a period of relatively matured, stabilized use of the voice, relatively speaking. So now I, as an independent voice teacher, I draw on all of the information and all of the textbooks and all of the articles and all of the institutes and all of the, the conferences and all of the things that I know to be the things to get, and maybe my undergrad voice ped class, maybe my master's in voice ped, maybe my, maybe my doctorate in voice ped. I draw on all of this information to help me support young singers, singers who are going through puberty changes, singers who go on the other side of that mature, stabilized body and instrument, and now going into what is happening with my body now because of this new hormonal change. And I'm looking at the information, and the information is written through this lens of working with matured instruments, often through that Western classical lens. So in other words, what the tonal outcome requirements are, and also what the best or most balanced way is to create these tonal outcomes, with no reference in there to like, but how do I, with these assumptions about the levels of coordination that are available and or that you should be expecting in the singers you're working with, and these assumptions around working with a stable, if you will, instrument. So that the lens of the information, the lens through which these texts, these courses, et cetera, is delivered, often is not a useful lens for those of us who are working in independent voice studios, where we are working with the people that they are not talking about. So they're talking about instruments and stability, and like they're talking about, let's work with this, this thing that's happening, and you're like, yeah, that thing that's happening, but also the reason it's happening is because of these things that you're not addressing. Obviously, lots has changed, especially I would say in the last decade, maybe 2 decades. Lots have changed, lots of things have changed, and lots of things stay the same. Lots of things are the same still. But there are some other resources out there now. But all of that to say, that is the reason. So often the research we read and the way it's presented to us, there's this assumption around the presentation of the research that it is, and also so often the actual research, first of all in singing voice, the actual research is done on like, an N of 2. So we've got like 2 people and we're drawing all of these conclusions from like 2 people. And also so often the research is done on people who, they're either well-trained opera singers or they are, it's just the research, so to speak, is not necessarily great. It's not going to give us the data that we actually need, right? So, and also when we are extrapolating the data, when we are interpreting the data, who's interpreting that data? The people who are interpreting that data overwhelmingly are people who work with this very specific population of singers, overwhelmingly, not all, but overwhelmingly, who work with this very specific population of singers. And so then that data gets interpreted in a way that is not useful for the rest of us who are not working with that very specific population of singers. Yes. So you're allowed to ask some questions, always ask some questions. And always, this comes back to in my mind, always comes back to who are you getting your information from? Who are they, and do they work with the same people who you work with? Are they working with the same singers, the same kinds of singers, are they actually doing the things that you're doing? Because if they're not, whether they are an expert or not in their field or what they do, or it doesn't matter how much of an expert they are at what they do, they're an expert with working with that very specific population. And in many cases, the lens is not useful. That is not a useful lens for the rest of us who are not working with that population necessarily. So, having said all of that, I actually didn't mean to say any of that. You're welcome. That was a little bonus there, because that doesn't have anything to, well, I guess it does a little bit, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the topic today. But the reason I was saying that is because Evolving Voice Classes, this is a live lecture series that is coming up in just over a week, actually. So like a week Monday. And the live lecture series is this, Child Voice 101, which is a class that I've done many times, and I keep updating on it as we go, but Adolescent Voice 101, same thing, done a lot of these classes, delivered these classes many times. Aging Voice 101, I have not offered this one to the public previously. However, this is one of the classes that I deliver, one of the lectures I deliver in my undergraduate voice pedagogy class, and that we talk through in the voice ped undegree. So and I have given that lecture actually several times to choirs. So lots and lots of many different choirs, especially, different kinds of choirs where the population of the singers is aging and they're not necessarily bringing in like brand new singers or younger singers. And so the population of the choir is aging. And so that is very interesting information for those singers to have in terms of how their voice is going to change, what expectations they may be able to expect, and how to negotiate and how to work within those changes, and to do the kind of singing they want to do still with that voice, even with those changes, right? So that is what is coming up, and the reason I offer these classes and the reason that I think they're important is exactly what I was just blathering on about earlier, which is the fact that these are certainly delivered and put together and collated, if you will, from recent research, from books like The Evolving Voice, from Dr. Ginevra Williams's book that I cannot recall off the top of my head the title of, and lots of other work that has lots of work. But it's also the information that I wish that I had when I was teaching these populations. I mean, I still do to a certain extent, but when I was teaching these populations regularly as a newer teacher, when I was trying to impose some of the ideas and some of the things that I thought were the right way to sing onto voices and instruments that were not, that was perhaps an inappropriate imposition, even though they were like the things that I thought were right. So that is what these classes are about. We talk about child voice, we talk about the anatomy and physiology of the child voice, of the developing child voice. We talk about belting and child voice. We talk about a little bit about appropriate repertoire. We talk about engaging child singers, young singers in the voice studio. We talk about supporting agency of child singers. In the aging voice, we talk about expectations around vocal changes and some of the changes that happen according to, there are different kinds of changes that we can expect according to whether or not the body is having what kind of hormonal cycle is happening. Let me just say here, was changing a diaper, so forgive my... There's no acknowledgement effectively making it damn near impossible to discern on behalf of, yes, and in support of the student, yes. Teaching singing to children and young adults. Thank you so much, Julia. Yes, that's Dr. Williams's book, Teaching Singing to Children and Young Adults. And there is a new edition coming out very soon, being published by Nikki Loney's company, the Full Voice. So get on that. And I think right now, also the Full Voice is having a sale on child and adolescent voice classes with Ginevra. So that's also a great thing to do. Good information there too, so all good. There's lots of, it's not pie. There's enough for everyone. It's not pie. It's champagne. The more you pour it out, the happier everybody is. So, although maybe the same thing could be said about pie. The more you eat it, the happier everyone is. But pie runs out. Champagne should never run out. Anyway, where was I going with all of that? I was saying, aging voice. We talk about the different expectations around what kind of hormonally led change is happening, and expectations working with aging singers. But we also, in aging singing, we also talk about, or in the Aging Voice 101, we also talk about anti-bias, anti-age bias, and recognizing that for ourselves, understanding as we're teaching how anti-age bias kind of creeps, ageism, if you will, kind of creeps into our teaching and often limits what we are willing or what we think is possible with the voices we're working with, right? So that is something that is also something we want to kind of consider. So we talk about that in the Aging 101 as well. And then in the middle of those two, adolescent voice. So adolescent voice 101, which is a little bit of what I want to talk about today. Wow, only 20 minutes in and we're getting there. We're getting there. We're almost there. 20 minutes in, you're welcome. So adolescent voice. In the adolescent voice class, we talk about changing voice. We talk about expectations and working with testosterone-led, which is, I think, Ginevra's language. I love it so much. I think I've just stolen it from Ginevra. But adolescent or testosterone-led changes versus estrogen-led changes, and what those expectations are, and around what's happening in the voice. We talk about working with voice change. We talk about all of those things. And we also talk a little bit, quite a bit, about agency in the voice studio. We talk about supporting agency, especially at this kind of critical time of life where folks are this is a big changing time of life, right? So we talk about those things as well. Student-led learning, of course, and teaching. So what I wanted to talk about today in a little bit more depth, and that we do not necessarily get into in the actual class itself, we sort of refer to it, but in a little more depth, what I wanted to talk about today is this idea of creating safe spaces, the idea of creating studios and voice spaces that that we can consider a safe space. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about that today is because, and in conjunction with adolescent voice, if you will, is that is the time often when we start to really think about these things, right? When we start to think about, like, how can I, like, they're going through a lot of, they may be going through a lot in their brains, and a lot of these hormonal changes can be really impactful. And so how do we create safe spaces for these singers in particular? All of the singers we're working with, of course, but for these singers in particular, how do we create safe spaces for them? And let me say this, let me read, first of all, from Michelle Markwart Deveaux', I'm going to have to remember to, like, who are all of these people? I talked about Ginevra, Michelle, I talked about Nikki, who else did I talk about? Oh, Evolving Voice, so Karen Brunson, okay, yep, I think I'm gonna have to make sure that I tag everybody. I want to make sure I get everybody in there. So this is and it's over here, so let me pull it over this way so I'm not, like, looking off screen. I'll be looking down, but not off screen. This is a part of the policies in the SpeakEasy Cooperative, and I think it's so beautifully articulated, and so I wanted to just read that out loud. So this is part of the policies, like I said. So it says this: understanding that safety is not about comfort. Safety is about repair. Ooh. Safety is not simply where we agree. It is about how we behave when we deeply disagree and feel ourselves tense up in response to something that feels out of alignment. True safety comes from the ability to repair when things get sticky. Organizations do not have the authority to determine whether their space is safe or not. The only person who can determine a safe space is the person experiencing it. This means that only you, as members, have the right to call SECO, or SpeakEasy Cooperative, safe, which you do. So that is, I think, just a beautiful articulation of this disconnect. Oh, yeah. Let me just read that out loud. In my experience, I've found the most harmful experiences often happen within the fold of a safe space. Yes. So often, yes, that the only person that can claim a safe space is the person experiencing it. Exactly. Isn't that so beautifully articulated? I know, it's so beautifully articulated. And of course, we, as voice teachers, as empathetic human beings, as folks who are, trying to support the singers we work with, we with the best of intentions, want to create safe spaces. Of course we do. Oh, yeah, as a queer human, I can't tell you how many safe spaces I've been told I'm in. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that is exactly the crux of it, isn't it? Isn't it? You're there and yeah, just having pronouns at an introduction doesn't mean that we're in a safe space now, right? Yeah, that's, I know, exactly. I mean, again, best of intentions. We're in this place where we're doing our best, obviously, and we want to do our best. And then we misunderstand, the issue for me is we misunderstand what it means to have a, quote, safe space, or what a safe space is, right? We misunderstand that. And so, especially those of us, especially those of us who are white, who have fewer, who have more levels of intersections of privilege, if you will, those of us who are cis-het, etc. When we have all of those levels of privilege, mean that, impact, not intent, yeah, I'm going there, I'm totally going there, yeah, mean that our intention is to create this space, safe space, but because of all of these intersections of privilege as well, we also feel like safe space means that no one is uncomfortable and no one gets hurt. Also, I don't hurt anyone. So I'm going to make a space where I never hurt you. I promise I will never hurt you, because my intention is that you will be safe and I will never hurt you, because I never want to be the person who hurts someone. I'm a good person. I have really good intentions. Oh, brave space. Yep. Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that as well. Absolutely fair. Yeah. I will talk about that as well. Let me just make sure that I get brave space in there too. But yes, so let me say this. Delusion, the most obvious symptom of privilege. Ouch. Yeah. Oh, I'm just going to sit with that one for just a hot second. They're coming back to the safe space versus brave space. I actually don't care what you call it. Overall, I don't care. It's not about necessarily the language for me, which is, I think, what you're saying as well, or what you're alluding to, perhaps. It's about what we mean when we say it, as per usual, right? So, like, if I'm saying that this is a safe space, okay, but now I need to actually define that, define how we're going to make it a safe space, brave space, inclusive space, etc. And I need to normalize all of the processes that will make it a safe space, quote unquote, brave space, whatever we want to call it, yeah? So the intention to create a safe space, or the understanding of what it means to be a safe space, is often, as I said, tied up in this very power-centered, very I'm in charge, and so I'm going to make this a safe space, maybe a little saviorism in there too. I'm going to make this a safe space for you, and the way I'm going to make sure it's safe is I'm going to say no one gets hurt, and I will never hurt anyone in this space, because I'm a good person, and I believe that you are all good people, and so everyone is going to be in this safe space where no one gets hurt. And no one ever misunderstands anybody else. Right? And I will never misunderstand you. And we will always have this space where we are always, no one is misunderstood. And so we conflate this, like, I will always be comfortable. If I'm uncomfortable, then I'm not safe. This is especially, I'm speaking now to those of you who look like me and who have the same kinds of privileges that I do, where as soon as we feel like we are uncomfortable, yes, trust me, the cis white nurturer, female, I'm the best nurturer. Exactly. Trust me. because as soon as I feel uncomfortable, then all of a sudden it's not a safe space, right? We assume that we get to be comfortable and that all of the spaces we're in are going to be comfortable, and we get to be in a space, and also we bring comfort when we get in the space. I'm here to bring comfort and safety because I am the hero. I am here to save the day, and I'm the voice teacher, or I am the music director, or I am the choral director, or I am the whatever power position I am in the voice space, right? I am that person, and I'm here to save the day and make sure that everybody is safe. And the way that I will know that it's not a safe space is if I'm uncomfortable. Oh dear, that is not great. Safe spaces need leadership that empower marginalized humans and are willing to have a seat when those folks speak up and make them uncomfortable. Yes, exactly right. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly where I'm going. Thank you. Yeah, exactly where I'm going with this. So what does it mean then to create safe spaces, or to create spaces where I am generally coming to this concept of safe space or brave space through the lens of neurodiversity affirming voice ped. So I'm generally coming to things through that lens, through inclusivity, through a lens of inclusivity, which has lots of other intersections, of course. So that's generally the lens that I'm coming through. And so when we start to talk about an inclusive space in studios, etc., what do we mean by inclusive space, or what do we mean by that? If we are actually values-led and we're understanding what we want to actually, the kind of space we actually want to create. First of all, we acknowledge, like, have you met a human? We are going to hurt each other. We are going to misunderstand each other. You could be the absolutely most self-aware, most healed, most like a person on the planet, and you will misunderstand someone at some point. And you will hurt someone at some point, and someone will misunderstand you, and someone will hurt you. That is what it means to be human. So first of all, we have to, especially again, those of us who expect to be comfortable in a space, who feel like it's our right to be comfortable, we have to understand, guess what? That's just not the way humans work, and that's a good thing. I grew up in a space, I was raised in a space where so long as everyone was getting along and no one, oh, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. I'm sorry about that. I will let me let that sink in a little bit. I often do start conversations with pronouns. Not always, but often do. So let me just let that let me allow that to be uncomfortable for a little bit. So the comment is this. When clearly straight cis women start a convo with pronoun introductions, it literally makes me feel unsafe and unseen. Gender is complex, yes, and I don't want to meet you and put myself in a box. Yes, that is also very clear, and a very clear to me that makes a ton of sense. Absolutely, yeah. So this is the first thing, right? Just like we understand that we start to, especially folks like me, we start to say, hey, all of the things that I was raised with that told me that I had a right to be comfortable, yeah, so that is an important point. Yeah, I appreciate you saying it. And like I said, I'm feeling a little feel there, and I'm letting it feel. We need to understand that the thing that I was taught my whole life, that I have a right to feel comfortable in any space I'm in, and that if I am uncomfortable, someone is either purposefully misunderstanding me, not taking into account who I am and my intentions, or they're just a bad person, or unhealed, or whatever. And so that is that's our first response, right? Oh, I'm uncomfortable with what you said. And so you are purposely, you think, you don't know what I have done. You don't know my intentions, but I am trying. So you don't know my intentions because you aren't taking into account my intentions. And I assume the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. And assuming I deserve. Yes, exactly. And you aren't giving me the benefit of the doubt the way that I would give you the benefit of the doubt. You aren't giving me the benefit of the doubt. Right. Yes. I was raised where repair was not possible. That was I was raised in a culture where, someone told you that you were right or wrong, and that your actions and the things you were saying were right or wrong. And if you were wrong, then you asked for forgiveness from the person who told you that it was wrong. And it was very sort of transactional, if you will, right? And so the only way that you knew that you were in a good relationship is that you, there was no uncomfortableness there, especially if I, as the person who didn't get to say what was right or wrong, the only way that the relationship could go on or be repaired is if I complied, and if I admitted that I was wrong, right? And if I asked for forgiveness, and that's how the relationship could be repaired. And that's how I was raised. And so lots of therapy later, and lots of wonderful friends, deeply caring and wonderful friends, many wonderful friends who have been on a yes, surrender your own intuition to conform to the wiser ones, exactly. Mm-hmm. Wonderful friends who, Michelle Markwart Deveaux, Liz Jackson Hearns. I'm not sure why all my favorite people have 3 names. Not all of them, but anyway, we've got some wonderful friends who are committed to being in relationship and who are committed to building real relationships where you are allowed and expected to hurt each other, and where you are allowed and expected to misunderstand each other, and the cocoon of the relationship or the safety in the relationship is because I am expected to do that, and I am expected, that is just, and it doesn't mean that our friendship is over. What it means is that we have a place where as soon as the impact of what I do or say does not align with the intention of what I do or say, my friends say something to me. This slow, deliberate, and mindful choice of words is what safe spaces feel like to me. You're very welcome. I appreciate you saying that. Mm-hmm. The understanding and the acceptance of the fact that the people in my life who care about me the most and who are the most invested in being in relationship with me, I don't know why I put that in quotes, in relationship with me and I with them, is the hallmark of that relationship is that I know that they never doubt my intention. I know that they never doubt my intention, that they always know that I have the best of intentions. And they know that I think the same about them. I know that they have the best of intentions. And we then are able to say, oh, I don't think that the impact of what you just said or did was this on me. This is what that felt like. I'm quite hurt by that. That's bringing up XYZ in me, blah, blah, blah. And we can repair. We can have the conversation. Is it hard? Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Friggin' sucks. Feelings are gross. I hate it. And also, I was not raised to sit in uncomfortable feelings. In fact, I was 100% raised the opposite. We do not. Feelings have nothing in your life. Feelings are there to be smushed down and always be happy because the joy of the Lord is your strength. Woo! So like, yes, I was not raised with this kind of culture. And that, let me offer, is how we start to create inclusive or safe or brave spaces. Is when we start to have and develop a culture where we all know yes, exactly. I try to over-communicate that I am aware, I'm an evolving being with more to learn, more places to grow. Yes, I will do my best to lead through care, never apathy. But like everyone, I will need more information. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So this is the crux for me. This is the crux of that culture, of developing that culture, is that you are communicating with in every way you possibly can, especially if you are the person with power in the relationship. So if you are the voice teacher, if you are the, like I said, music director, if you are the choral director, if you are the teacher, whatever, whoever you are, the person with power in that relationship, the person with the power to change the culture, right? The person with the power to be able to create the space, if you will, that you are communicating always and at every turn that what I am saying now, I am open to you telling me when the impact of what I am saying or doing does not align with my intention. And when you tell me that thing, I am committed to taking it in and sitting with the uncomfortableness of I effed up. I'm committed to sitting with that. I am committed to being in the really gross space for me that has this, but I'm trying my best and can't you see that I'm a good person? Can't you see that I'm not racist? Can't you see that I'm not gender phobic? Can't you see, right? I am going to sit with everything that comes up in me that says, I'm doing my best. You're misunderstanding me. You're calling me a terrible thing. Oh, yeah. Let me come back to that. Everything that comes up in me that says, this person doesn't understand me. This person is believing the worst about me. This person doesn't know how good my intentions are. This person is not giving me the benefit of the doubt. Everything that comes up in me that says, I deserve to have the benefit of the doubt. I deserve to be comfortable. I deserve for you to understand me. I deserve for you to not accuse me of things. Everything in me that comes up from that, I am going to do my darndest to keep that back. Not back, but acknowledge it. What I say to voice teachers often is observe that. Observe that this is what I'm feeling right now. This is again from the wonderful Michelle Markwart Deveaux, who I'm calling out all over the place today, but I am observing that this is a thing that is happening. I am observing this thing. I am observing that I am reacting because it feels like they are personally attacking me when they say, but I didn't get anything out of that exercise. You don't seem to be teaching me in the way that my other teacher taught me. I'm not learning what I want to learn. The thing that you said to me, yeah, let me come back to that too. The thing that you just said right now, that's appropriation. the thing that you just did right now, can I say a thing to you? The thing that you just did right now, that makes me feel very unseen. You said something now that was, or you're asking me to do something that's really ableist. You are assuming something that is not true. Whenever a singer you're working with says any of those things, that monster comes up in me so hard, right? So what do? I observe it. I'm having a reaction right now to this thing. Part of that reaction is that it feels like they are not believing the best in me. They are not giving me the benefit of the doubt. I am having a reaction to that. And then on the other side, I am going to get curious and I am going to come back to my values, which is this person is giving me information. How do I know they're not believing the best in me? Maybe they are, but they also feel very comfortable because I've created a space where they feel comfortable to tell me when the impact does not align with, when the impact of what I've said or done does not align with my intention. And it's because they know that I have good intentions that they are telling me that the impact does not align with the intention. It's because they know, it's because they believe that I have good intentions that they are telling me that the impact did not align with the intention. It's because of that. Okay, now I know that. I am going to now allow myself to sit in the uncomfortableness. I'm going to get curious about this. What is this behavior communicating to me? Or what is this actually communicating to me? How can I support this singer? I am not here to ensure that they are compliant and respectful. That is not what great educators do. That's not how learning works. Well, I mean, that's how compliance-based learning works for sure, but that is not in line with my personal philosophy or values, pedagogical philosophy, or the values that I espouse, right? The values that I espouse do not say, the values that I espouse say that everyone is doing the best they can with the information that they have. And if someone is telling me that the impact of what I am saying or doing does not align with my intention, they may not actually be saying it in those words, but that's how I'm going to translate it. I'm going to translate this not as a personal attack, not as someone being disrespectful, not as someone questioning my authority, not as someone being lazy, not as someone being entitled, not as someone being blah, 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 all of the things that we say. I am not going to view it that way. I am going to sit in the uncomfortableness of this, and I'm going to get curious about what is actually being said and communicated here. And when we start to have spaces where that is allowed, where that is the culture, where the culture is, I know that I can, first of all, I know that everyone here believes in my intentions, does not doubt my intentions. Then I know that there's a good chance, because humans, someone is going to misunderstand me and or hurt me, and I'm going to misunderstand someone and or hurt them, even with my fabulous intentions. And because we have this culture of safety, bravery, inclusivity, all of the words that we use, because I have this culture, or I'm hopefully developing this culture, the people who do not have power in this situation, or who have less power in this situation, are able, free, safe, etc., enough to be able to communicate the impact of my actions or words, and therefore, and also, we believe in repair. This is just huge. We believe that relationships are stronger when we repair. We believe in repair. We believe that hurt leads to repair in these relationships. And so then the relationship is stronger. We have perhaps we might call that a safe space, but I'm not going to call it a safe space if I'm the person in power in the relationship, right? Or if I'm the person who's creating the space. I'm not going to call it that. I am going to start to, well, maybe brave space. I don't know, we could call it. But again, it isn't necessarily about the words that we're using. It's about what we mean when we say those words. If we are calling it a brave space, and the reason we're calling it a brave space is because we still believe that like everybody gets to be brave, but I still get to be hurt or I still get to be unreasonably hurt, if you will, because you were brave. That's not really the essence of what we were going for, right? That's the same thing as like, yeah, but you can't hurt me. You're allowed to be brave and say whatever you want, but only if it doesn't hurt me. That's not really what we're going for, right? I like this approach. It involves more active feedback and less unrealistic pressure on a teacher to never make anyone uncomfortable. Yes, exactly. The comment says, you once did an office hours on non-binary thinking. I loved it. I try to remember communication is neither good nor bad. Exactly, it's just data. Varying degrees of effort are clear to most folks looking for safety, yes. Doing my own work around this lately. Anything a person has learned about me, this is my responsibility. Yes, love that too. I think it's important to present the environment as something only possible with a commitment from every party. Yes, I can't make the space for you, but with you, yes, absolutely. You like to learn as you teach, that modeling is perhaps the most important part of your work. Yes, the effort and modeling, a willingness to evolve. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's part of the whole package, I think, right? Like that's part of the whole developing this culture is can I observe when this is painful and all of the reasons that it's painful, and can I get curious? Can I, yeah, all of these kinds of like, so what does that require for us, let me just say, in an adolescent space, for example, or a space when we're working with adolescent singers in particular, because I'm kind of coming back to adolescent singers, but what does that require from us as voice teachers or the folks who are setting up, who are in charge of the space in a sense, right? We are in charge of setting up the culture, we are in charge of the space. What that does, I think one of the requirements then from us is, as I said earlier, to communicate as often as we can, that the thing that you say to me or the behavior that you express to me, I am going to take as data. I'm going to take as information versus as a personal affront. I'm going to do my best. And hi, Gwen Merrick. I was just talking about you earlier. Talking about you? Not behind your back in a bad way, but in a like, I know, she's my favorite too kind of way. Oh gosh, now where did I go? I squirreled. It requires that we reframe our thinking. Sorry, let me go in a slightly different direction. It requires that we reframe our thinking, we consider our thinking when it comes to behaviors in the studio, when it comes to what we might think of as attitude in the studio, when it comes to what people are saying. It requires that yes, I will take info. I will make these things as info or data. It's just data. It requires that we recognize and release our commitment to our own comfortableness in the studio, and our recognize that we often have this like, but I deserve to be comfortable because I am a good person. Release that. Of course you are a good person. That does not mean that you deserve to be comfortable. Ouch! Damn it. And we release that. We also start to set up this culture, like I said, where I want to know if the impact of my action or words does not align with my intention. I want to know, no matter how uncomfortable it is for me. That, I think, is a way to start to create safer spaces where people can say, this is a safe space for me, or this feels like a safe space for me, or it feels like a brave space, or it feels like a whatever, however we want to describe those spaces. This is a learning. This is a place where I can learn, right? This is a place where I can actually, yes. Let me say one other thing. Just one other thing. You know, it's fine. Just one other thing. Let me say one other thing. Whenever I hear or come across folks who, teachers in particular, often white men, often white women, teachers saying something along the lines of, well, I just don't know what I can say anymore. I'm so afraid that if I, I'm gonna say the wrong thing. I am, I'm so worried that I'm gonna offend someone. I just want to do the right thing. I'm so afraid that someone's gonna take it the wrong way. Someone's gonna misunderstand me. I just don't know what I can say anymore. I feel like I can't say anything anymore. When I hear teachers saying, well, I'm self-censoring all the time. I'm just like, I can't be myself. I can't, When I hear that being expressed, my first thought is this, that, victim mentality, and let me come back to that one too, the other comment there too, but my first thought is this: you are still stuck in the power over dynamic in your teaching relationship, and in the I am the teacher, therefore I tell you what to do, and if you don't do what I tell you to do, you are not a good student. And you are never seeing how hard I work, you are never seeing how hard I'm trying, you're not taking into account, it is so incredibly teacher-centered, right? It is so self-centered. It is so much about me in the situation because I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to. And that is a very deep and profound misunderstanding of what it means to be in an inclusive learning space, or what it means to be as an educator. It's a profound misunderstanding. For me, that is, again, teacher-centered. It is my right to be uncomfortable. It is my right to impose compliance. It is a misunderstanding what it means to be an educator in the sense that I am always right, and when you say I'm wrong, there's something wrong with you. You are misunderstanding me. And that's not good, because I'm the expert. Yes, a determination to misunderstand, exactly. So, if that is something that comes up in you, if that is something that you have heard yourself saying, if that is something that you hear colleagues saying, if that is something that comes up, for me the next step is the reason that I think that I am scared of being misunderstood, that I think that everybody is out to sort of gotcha me if I make even the tiniest misstep. The reason that I feel that way is because I have not been responsible to develop a culture or intentional about developing a culture where within the studio or space or wherever I am, where the person who has less power in the situation inherently less power because of the teacher-student dynamic, if you will, where that person, where every time that person says something, I have not developed the culture, excuse me, where that person knows that they are safe to tell me when my intention does not, when my impact does not to be, so true. And I am, where the person does not, the student does not know, I have never communicated or reckoned with the fact that because I am in this position of power, because I have inherently that is part of the relationship, that it is my responsibility to communicate that I want to hear when the impact does not align with my intention. I want to know. That is my responsibility as the person with the power in that relationship, in that culture, in that space. That my responsibility is to say and to make it very clear that I want to know when the impact of my words and actions do not align with my intention. And then you don't have to worry. I mean, you want to be thoughtful, of course. We want to be intentional. We want to continue to be intentional and thoughtful. And also, yes. Okay, let me come back to some of these. I've had to work on my prickliness around voice teachers that look like you. Yes, after my college experience of being othered by the same demographic. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that is always, right? There's always this like responsibility to do that kind of work as well. And also just to continue to observe. This is bringing up a thing in me. I'll get curious if I can. It's not always possible for sure. And the victim mentality, yeah. Determination to misunderstand. Also yes, I deserve the benefit of the doubt and you deserve to be the victim of the doubt. That said, safe spaces make space for my prickliness and seeing why I might be that way, being seen beyond a pronoun, which largely feels like virtue signaling. Yep, communication is not one-sided. It is co-communication. And that is how you, yes, exactly. That's how you talk about your intention. That's how you signal, that's how you communicate that the impact of my words matters to you, and I understand that I can have the best of intentions and still F it up. In fact, I'm going to. And that doesn't mean that I didn't have the best of intentions. It just means I'm human and I have all of these other things happening, and that is what it means to be human. We can't legislate no hurt and no misunderstanding in voice spaces. It's not possible. I mean, you can, but then you're all in compliance and everybody's masking. And you can tell me your intentions are X, Y, Z, but until you prove it, so what? Exactly. If I say to you, oh, my intentions are so good, I would never want to hurt you, and then I do hurt you, or I do misunderstand you, you know, like, if I do hurt you and do misunderstand you, and then you come back to me and say, oh, but you did hurt or misunderstand me, and I say, no, my intentions were good. Great, I'm glad you had good intentions, but you still did the thing. Follow up with your good intentions to now let's change the thing so that we're learning and we're still in relationship, right? Like, we all know where good intentions gets us, right? Good intentions, man. It's a thing. Okay, I have talked way long enough. Really taken up the live office hours. hour mantle here. Wonderful. I hope you have a terrific weekend. If you are working in a sort of traditional voice studio space, I would love to see you at Evolving Voice live lecture series, if that is available to you. Let me say as well, those live lectures will be on the VoicePed 101 library platform as of the 1st of August. So thank you. So if the live lecture series is not accessible to you, or is not, you're not able to make them, and you love to learn self-directed, I feel like best intentions are similar to narcissist speech. Oh, there's some possibilities there for sure. For sure. It's like narcissist behavioral. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of crossover, right? Yeah, if the live lecture series is not available to you and or is not possible for you to attend live, consider subscribing to the VoicePed 101 library. The value in coming to the live lectures is that they're live and you can ask questions right away. And also, I am the kind of person who needs to pay for a live lecture because I won't watch. I won't do it on my own if I am not. I won't self-direct. That's just not the way I'm built, and I am fine with that now. So, but if you are a person who is who loves that, you know, having that time. Oh, thank you so much. I'm really glad. Thank you. If you're that person who has that time and who would like to and who prefers to learn in that way, maybe feel free to subscribe to the VoicePed 101 library. The subscription is, if you want to do monthly, it's $97 a month. So, and that gives you instant access to everything that's in the VoicePed library. As of August 1st, there will be more in there. And then I think even as of September 1st, I think there will still be more in there. And up until September 1st, there's also a lifetime membership available. So if you wanted to do that, that's also great. Okay, I am done now. Take good care, friends. Have a terrific weekend. I hope that this is useful, and let me know.